I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Ready to take your heading skills to the next level? Introducing the Basics of Roping, the ultimate online course for beginners. With over 2 hours of step-by-step instruction, drills, and swing breakdowns, this course is designed to teach the fundamentals of team roping in a way that is easy to follow. You'll learn everything from the basics of rope stretching and care to understanding the swing and rotation of your hand. Whether you're new to roping or just looking to refine your technique, the Basics of Roping has you covered. Head to my website, Charlie Crawford Training, and click on the course tab to follow the link to sign up. The first 100 students to sign up will get this course at a special rate of $100. This would be a great Christmas present for that aspiring team roper in your life.
All right, today we got Jake Leach on the podcast, and I thought this was really cool in the fact of this is a guy that works for a living and went out to Vegas for the Ariat World Series finals and killed it. Jake, thanks for coming on, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
Tell me what all you won out there.
Man, first roping I was in was the 13 finale. I roped in the 13 bloomer. We didn't do no good. Roped in the 13 finale. Won 23rd in that. Was 8,000. And then I roped in the 12 bloomer. I won first and eighth in the 12 bloomer. That was 60,000 for first, 13,600 for eighth, and then roped in the 10 finale and won 141,000 in that for fourth.
That's awesome. That's a lot of checks.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's kind of everyone's goal, I feel like, going out there and just kind of knocking that home run, knocking that run that you're trying to make. And I thought that was pretty cool because in a what I think is so hard, in my opinion, is you work all day and you come home, especially in the late fall or the early fall when the time changes, and you only got a few hours to kind of get ready. And so to me, it seemed like you worked your butt off this year to try to make sure this year you were ready to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I made a goal last year. I didn't prepare. I went out there and I roped, 2 months before, and I'd rope once a week. I might rope my dummy one day, like, all right, yeah, let's go. And then I'd get mad. I'd be like, man, I split the horns on that one. Or, man, my horse didn't leave right here. Or, man, my horse faced like crap. Well, I was like, man, why am I getting mad? I'm not even prepared, And that was my goal. And I wrote it on the fridge, rope the dummy. And I made sure I roped the dummy every single day. It didn't matter if it was 10 o'clock at night. I'd rope the dummy. Get home from a jackpot, rope the dummy. Every day.
What's cool too is, when you get on those big stages and to be able to capitalize, when a guy is not able to do that consistently, it can be one of those things you get, especially in those lights. It's not like every U.S. roping you go to or World Series roping you go to is, they crack out the lights.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big deal. And, it almost, I always like to ask too, is like what that felt like. And then also now think about when those guys are at the NFR next door.
Yeah.
So it almost kind of has a little bit of that feel, doesn't it?
Yeah. Everyone says, man, when you ride down the tunnel, it's crazy. Well, I went out there the first time when I was 21. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. I didn't have the money to go out there. I was like, man, I'm playing on a dime here. Like, let's go win. And wasn't prepared. Wasted my money. But you ride down that tunnel and then you run your first year, you back in there and you're like, man, there's kind of a few people out here, like this is pretty cool.
Pack those stands for those short rounds, won't they?
The short round is where there's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you really, when they call your name, for the short round, they announce you and you walk through the arena. That's when you're like, holy crap, dude, where were all these people earlier? Like they were not in here when I ran my first steer. And then there's not even a seat, like people standing in the alley and everything else. And then you back in the box and
the announcers roaring and getting the crowd into it and talking about the payout. And it can get real easy to see the dangling carrot stick in front of you that they can lead you if you don't slow down and focus on.
Yep. I think that's where I had to step back, and I set myself up for a lot of scenarios, like a lot of scenarios. When I'd go practice, I know we talked about it a bunch at your clinic. When we go practice, you're like, hey, your high call right here, you need to go be a 7-4 to win the open. How do you go be 7-3? Well, I'd go to practice and I'd ask the people I'm with, hey guys, we're high call. And they'd look at me like, dude, we're practicing. I'm like, you don't understand. Like we got to prepare our minds for this moment.
This is practice.
And they're like, man, you're crazy. Like, I'm like, dude, you tell me a time. What do I need to be? They're like, okay, you need to be 7-2. All right, well, when I nod my head, start your phone. Let me see if I can be that. And I'm like, I think they just thought I was kind of joking, And I'm like, no, I got to mentally prepare myself. And when we backed in high call, we were high call by a second and a half in the 12. And I was so focused, I don't even remember what we needed to be. I don't remember a thing. I just do my same routine. I backed in the box, rode my horse forward. I backed up. Steer was standing good. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have it. I made sure I seen a good start, run right to the hip, caught him, turned him, and when he healed him, we were like,
you've been practicing.
Yeah. We were like, I think we were 7-5.
Yeah.
And I kind of blacked out. Like I just kind of kept my zone.
Well, to me, that's to me, like when we're talking about the technique and the foundation. When you've learned the correct technique and the correct foundation, to me, the technique is when you're learning where to bring your first swing up, the timing, rhythm, and balance. The guy's got to learn when and where and how all that stuff works. And after that, you got to know how wide to get and where the position is. Then after that, once you dally, now it's just half over.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to know the left-hand side of the arena, and I think once you find that and you just do it over and over and over and over again, then to me, you got something you can lean on when you're in that, like we talked about, when you're high team back and you got to make this run, can you go make it? And to me, when that's what practice is.
Yep.
I think there's certain practice when, you're developing your technique or you're developing your pattern. That's one thing. You're working on your run. You hear a lot of the top guys talking about working on my run. And what they're doing is we're making that run to where they know the header knows where the heeler is and the heeler knows where the header's going. And once you do that, then you're putting yourself in scenarios. But there's times when you're just working on your technique, when you're working on your pattern and working on your run. And to me, like that's what practice is. So when you go there, the only thing that changes is the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I think a lot of times. And I think for some people, and that's fine too. I think it's fun. It is. It's a fun sport. But then there's some people that want to capitalize on it. If we're going to pay this much money for a horse, this much money for ropes, this much money for a saddle and steers and hay and all the stuff that goes along with it, for the guys that are like, I'd like some return on some of this, so now we got to know what to practice and how to practice so you can start getting a return on it. So that's a pretty good return. How much? How much did you win out there?
$222,600.
And that was split?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And, so 100 and what, 100 and say 12?
111,300 is what we come home with.
So, you look at the NFR guys and what a handful of them probably went past that.
Yeah, Katie was looking that up. There wasn't very, I think 5 maybe.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's an accomplishment. That's something to be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel?
Man, it was cool. It was cool. It was.
How long does it take where you're like, oh man, this is awesome? Then it sinks in, and then you're like, oh man, that was awesome again.
Well, it
can be in a roller coaster, huh?
Dude. I don't know. It's like it almost hasn't really sank. Like it sank in, and it sank in like right after when I roped that steer. I was like, man, my man healed him right there. I knew he was going to heal him, and I just knew if I'd keep him on the end of it and keep it away from him and not take him away too fast, he was going to catch 2 feet. And when I did that, and I seen him do that, I was like, dude. We just won a lot of money. I don't know how much we won, but we just won a lot of money. And then I rode out, and people would tell me all week, man, you're roping good, like, dude, we've seen your hard work, like it's paying off. Like, man, you're roping great. Your horse is freaking awesome, blah, blah, blah. And that's a great feeling. I don't even know half the people who are telling me it. Like, they'll just come up to me, man, I really like your horse. And I'm like, thank you very much. And then after it was over, dude, I made almost every short round of every open I went out there to open. I made almost every short round. And people I don't even know, I'll be in the elevator at 7:00 in the morning, and a guy would walk up to me, man, dude, you're roping good. Your horse is awesome. Oh, thank you very much. No clue who these people are. And that's a cool feeling. Like, you see the hard work I've put in for the year, for, the last year, you see it pay off. And then you see everybody else come up to you and be like, man, you're roping outstanding. Your horse is great. It's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah. I know Kelsey Chase, she was talking about the difference in doing good at the Kimes $1 million breakaway and then being able to win the world in the WPRA, PRCA end of the year. And she was talking about the money was great in the Kimes, what they're doing for the industry was awesome. And then she talked about, what that world title meant to her, and she was talking about the sacrifices that you make throughout the year to win that gold buckle. And, the money on one side was life-changing and awesome, and then the feeling of being able to put that effort into something and having it, everything, just all of it kind of come into that one run and that one scenario where that buckle tells you the best in the world that year. And, it's pretty cool. It's a different feeling when you're able to sacrifice something and put in that much effort and to watch it pay off is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did you watch the finals this year?
I watched a little bit, man. It was
and round 10 was wild, wasn't it?
It was crazy. It was crazy.
What a good watching. It was such good watching. Rooting for Coleman to pull it off, and that it was just such a good all around race between, Junior had a chance, and then when it come down to it, I think for the first time, I think Coleman going in the 10th round was winning the all around. And then Shad moved to second for the first time, and then, Junior had a chance, and then, then how it all kind of circled, and it was only by a few $1,000s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to see that was pretty cool. Shad had to be pretty pumped that we're all around. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Coleman, I think the whole country was rooting for him. He's such a big personality, and, he roped great. He handled him so good out there, but my man Logan, looked like Iceman back there. Just no matter where the steer was at, just 2 feet, and makes it look so easy. But, T-Wade backing in there on the last one, having to be 3.8 and then having to do it and then did it.
Yeah.
And I really do. I know this is probably, speaking a lot, but in my opinion, Wesley Thorpe looks like the Clay Cooper of our generation.
Dude,
it doesn't matter what he has to do. He does it. If he needs to kick in and make sure, he does it. If he needs a tee off, he does it. He's got so many. He just ropes so smart and so good. It's impressive to watch.
I was watching a Facebook reel on the next day after round 10. I was watching it, and T-Way, I think he was talking to Jake, and he was like, dude, if y'all, he said, I don't remember how he worded it. If they would have let off the gas where T-Wade would have had to just go catch, he's like, I would have screwed it up. He's like, if I needed to go be 6'2", I would have probably missed. He's like, but you made me have to be 3'8", and that's where me and Wesley were like, hey, we're doing it, And he said, when I have to be 3'8", I don't remember how the video went, but something along, if I have to be 3'8", I would rather go try to be 3'8" than 6'2", because he's like, he would try to, just kick up there and he'd mess up.
That arena is so hard to just go catch. You see what Coleman had to do. You missed that start just a little bit, and it does. They come to you. They move around. That arena closes in on you so fast. I mean, who would have dreamed that Clay Smith would have missed to win the frickin' average of the NFR? Like, I felt a cold breeze from hell when that happened. Like, what in the hell? Like, hell froze over. Like, holy crap, that dude don't screw up, and he doesn't miss. But that place, if you miss that start just a little bit, then everything gets hard. Everything closes in. The left wall shows up, the back end. It's almost easier if you go with that start and they're there. Then you have more room to find the left corner, and it's so hard of an arena to just go catch him.
Yeah.
And then Junior and them battled back, and it was just a good race in the team roping. But one of the things that I talked about too is, I've had my rope. I never blown my spoke at the finals, but I've had it where it backfed. Like when I started my rope, where the tip of my rope hit the horse's hip, and then my spoke went over the top of my tip, and it like hung up. And happened at the NFR. Never had it happen at home. I don't even remember it ever happening. Kelsey Chase, she talked about when she blew her spoke in the first round at the Kimes Ranch, blew her pants apart at the NFR, her pants tore, ripped. The things that never hardly happen at home. And you watch Driggers when he almost hit the gate man with his rope. And I just really think that for so many kids and so many people out there, that stuff happens.
Oh, dude, yeah.
To give yourself some grace. And it's sometimes like when you see the best in the world and those things happen. And I thought it was just so good to see that, because then Kelsey Chase comes back and wins the world. I think the next night, Driggers comes back and strikes.
Yeah,
still gives himself a chance to win the world.
I think they tied for the arena record that night.
3-4
was the next night.
Yeah, 3-4 close. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
or three? Was it? They were close.
Yeah, 3-4. And so I think that's just something that for ropers out there. I know we all know how hard everyone's trying out here, and when those things happen, like to learn to laugh it off is so hard to do. Because I guarantee you, right now, Junior's making fun of, or Driggers is making fun of himself.
Oh,
I guarantee you, he's laughing about it. Now, I'm not saying at the time, got to give a little bit of time, but I guarantee you right now he is poking fun at it.
I got a funny story about that. So I was with Schaffner one day and it was rainy, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to go rope with Jiggers and Junior at Pepe's." I was like, "All right." Dude, I have an old campaigner at the time. He's 19 years old. And I'm like, he was lights out, never made a mistake. Like, he taught me a bunch about heading. And I was like, all right. So I load him in the trailer, we go over there. Well, he had got hurt and he hadn't been rode in like 2 months. And I get on, and we're running some pretty fresh steers right before they left. I think this might have been 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, right before they left to go to the finals. I'm loping this horse around, he's a big old, just gentle giant. And I'm loping around. Everything's good. And I back in the box the first steer. Dude, I nod my head, and no, I never thought of anything about this horse doing anything. Well, I lean out there to rope him, and I rope him, and I go to the horn, and I was leaned over, and this horse doesn't even buck. He just kind of crow hops and takes 3 hops to the left, and I just fall right off the right side. My foot gets hung in the stirrup. Oh, I look up, and I'm like, I'm pretty nervous. I'm like, man, I'm roping with Driggers and Junior. This is going to be sweet. I look up, and Caleb's just laughing, and Tyler's like, "You idiot, how'd you fall off your horse? He didn't even buck, And then I see Caleb at a jackpot, like right after they got back or something. First thing he says, "Did you get bucked off your horse lately?" I was like, man, how embarrassing.
When you leave an impression like that, the good thing is you're remembered.
Yeah. Yeah. But
yeah, what was your favorite head horse out there at the NFR?
Man, I've always liked the horse Caleb heads on, and I really liked that mare Clay was heading on. That horse was sweet. I think I read on the Team Roping Journal.
Which one was your favorite horse?
Either the one Caleb heads on or the mare that Clay was heading
Smith.
on.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read on there that mare that Clay was heading on was his sister-in-law's head horse.
I think Tibba Smith had it, and yeah, I think that was. Yeah, I thought I'd heard that horse came. He had an interesting story. And
he did come from Tibba.
Yeah, I thought Jackie said Tibba had him,
and then his sister-in-law had him, and I think she's younger. She's 16 or so, probably 17.
Yeah. She roped at the NFR showdown we had for the military. We raffle off a spot to be able to rope there, and then she picked Junior there and lit him up.
Yeah.
Like, she missed the last one to have a chance to win place in the average. Like, it was awesome. She was a crowd favorite. It was so cool to see. She's a sticker. She ropes really good. Yeah, the horses that Clay Smith has in that arsenal over there and the jockey that he is. But, man, to watch him miss that last one, I'm like, there's just no way. I'd have lost a ranch on that if I was a gambling man. That to me, that transmission just looked like if I was going to go there and get on one that I knew I didn't have to worry about nothing. That horse looked like he did so much. From the start he was able to get, the way he was able to keep the steer's head, Jake knew where almost every steer was going in the finish. Being able to keep that rope tied all the way through the finish, he was really impressive. Really impressive. It was fun to watch.
It's hard to pick a good head horse when they're all like that.
Mm-hmm. I tell you who else I thought was gaming over there big time was Braden, Brenton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
He stuck out there. Santa Maria, he did some work. And that
Yeah,
rookie healer started off good. He had a little heck at the end, but man, he started off lights out. The rookie healer there, he looked legit. In the last couple, he had a little heck, which happens, but they came to play.
They're going to be something to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they looked really good. That head horse I thought looked really good too. But yeah, I've heard some splits. There's quite a few splits. I know. I think what is it? Jake Long is roping with. He was roping with Vaughn on. My head's not in it. I'm trying to remember everything. Andrew Ward and Jake Long. They won the Kojo. That's a new team for next year, and so there's a lot of splits, a lot of stuff kind of going on this year. I think with some of the guys, there's a lot of stuff that's new. I think that they're just kind of figuring it out right now. But yeah, I'd be looking for a lot of splits. With some of the guys, I think after the NFR, but nothing. I think Junior and them, everything I've heard is still legit. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see some of the new teams coming out. Some of them look pretty good on paper, I think.
Yeah.
Opinion. But then what about the calf roping? That kid's legit. Jiminy Christmas.
Old Riley
Webb.
Yeah, he's got such a good attitude.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. He started off strong and then just knew how to maintain from there. To be that good, that fast, and consistently fast, his technique looks impeccable. His mental game looks good. He was in a league of his own. It looked, and it was his to take. Like he had to take it, and he did. He went in there and took it. It was the roping events was good, man. The barrel racing was good. Golly, right there at the end was a one header. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch.
Pretty good finals.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what they've done in there, and it's interesting to hear too. Is I've heard the payouts the next couple of years are going to be really strong with the new contract coming out. That's all rumors, so interesting to listen to. Another rumors is possibly moving, maybe where they're having it. All rumors, but interesting to see if there's some change coming on over there as well. But man, the production that they have over there, it makes it fun watching.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about, I talked to Kelsey Chase last week in a podcast because she killed it. She went in there at the breakaway, went over there at the Kimes $1 million breakaway, won the average, 10 for 10, went to the NFR, won the world. She was 9 for 10, had a chance to be 20 for 20 for the whole deal and missed the last calf, which is almost like watching Clay Smith. He'd have lost the ranch, but she still won the average, won the world title. And the thing that I asked her was like, everyone's going to want to know, what was your preparation? Because when you kill it like that, everyone's going to want to know, what was that recipe? What was that secret recipe? And she had some really good quotes and talked about some really cool stuff. But when you go from, you're a working class guy that ropes for fun, and you go there as a number 5, and you go there and you make that many short rounds and that many checks and win over 100,000, everyone's going to kind of want to know what the recipe is. So what was some of the things that got you prepared to, you always want to peak out at the right spot, and that's it, especially there. So how did you get prepared for that event?
Man, I want to, okay, so, let's go back to, say, the beginning of 24. I kind of had a goal in my mind that after I was driving back that 19-hour drive, by the time you let your horses out and get fuel, you're 19 hours in the truck. And that's,
I was leaving Vegas last year.
Yes, sir. I made some mistakes last year to be very, very good. Me and JD Holland, we roped in the 13, and I broke the barrier on our third one to come back top 5. And JD wheels him, dude. All you got to do is get him away from him. He's going to heal 2 feet. And the last 2 years I've went out there, barriers, if either split the horns or I broke a barrier to make it back to the short go. I haven't made a big short go like that. And I knew, I'm like, man, if I will go catch every steer, if I draw a runner, go run to the hip and catch him and break him down and let my man heal him. If I draw one that lopes with his head up, gotta make up some time and go B6 on him. And so that was my mindset through the whole year. Like at a jackpot, if I did that at a jackpot, I knew I would kind of win some money. If I just caught all my steers, that was my goal. Just wanted to catch more steers. So I needed to be stronger. I needed to be in better shape. So I was like, man, I'm going to start going to the gym. And I took the gym very, very, very serious. I mean, I went 5 days a week, hour and a half, 2 hours a day. I mean, I ate good. My wife, Katie, she prepares every meal for me. I mean, like clockwork. she makes it where it's easy to do it, So she's like, hey, you need to keep your horses on the walker. You need to keep them exercised. You need to rope the dummy, So all this little stuff, she's sitting there, hey, come on, you got to do it. I'm like, all right. That was my main goal, was
someone keeping you accountable.
Yeah.
Which is very, very
yes. And I knew if I could get it where I could go out there and know I was going to catch the steer, not back in the box and be like, man, these big horns scare me, or back in the box, hope I don't wave it off these little horns. No, just back in there and knowing I dare you to throw a big horn cow in there and watch me rope them. Like that was my mindset going to Vegas this year. Now, where last year, where I made those mistakes, I knew I had to fix it. That's 2 years in a row it cost me making the short go with JD in the 13 by breaking a barrier. 2 years in a row. And that cost me a lot of money because I know JD isn't one. He don't rope a leg. He don't miss. I mean, he tees off. And so that's where I had to make sure I roped the dummy. I kept my horse in shape. I didn't slack when it come to working out. Like I went in there with my head straight on, like, hey, let's go work out and let's get a good workout in. I feel like now I'm in way better shape than I was a year ago, and I think that has a big factor.
Well, not only physical, but what it does mental.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of frame of mind it puts you in. When you get up and you attack the day, and now you make the day basically your bitch.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of confidence that leads throughout after that, especially if you can get it done before the sun comes up. I totally agree with that. I was really into that too when I was rodeoing because. You stay in that trailer constantly. You don't eat very good. And for me, I could feel where my, especially with my back, I had terrible back when I was rodeoing. If I didn't keep that thing in shape, it'd blow out or get sore or go out or whatever. And then just, man, when you're eating junk and not working out and then just constantly just feeling tired, just where you're not coming with your A game.
Yep.
And that does it for physically, and what it does for you mentally is, I think that does give a guy that boost of confidence when it's time to put you in a good frame of mind. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And eating right.
Yeah.
Eating right's a big one. It's biblical. Your body's a temple.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And you are what you eat in a lot of ways too.
I think that's a big factor with it. Was the big thing is, so September through December, January, I guide a lot of hunts, and that is a busy, busy, busy time for me. Every year, it's very easy for me to put my rope up and get it out. Put my rope up in July when it gets hot and not get it back out until November 1st, a month before I leave. Or I might break it out in October twice, Oh yeah, I practice this month, no big deal. This year, I told Katie at the beginning of the year, I will not let myself quit roping. I'm going to rope all year long. And, used to live in Stephenville. It's easy to rope. I could call Schaffner. And I got to where I wouldn't even call Schaffner because sometimes you call him and he don't answer. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to his house and rope. And so he don't answer. I just load my horses up and drive up to his house.
Where the steers are.
Yeah. And before long, he'll walk outside. Hey, your horse is saddled. Let's rope. All right. So we'd run some. And it was easy there. In Wichita Falls, it's not easy to rope because there's not a lot of people that want to rope. And I have an arena right outside my house. And there's times I'd load the steers in there and I wouldn't have a healer. I'd just load the steers in there and I might steer stop 10 in a row. I might break away 5 and I might score 30, like by myself. Just got the button right here. Boom, I'll hit it and I'll do it. I'm like, I'm going to rope. Like, I will not miss doing this. I have to make myself rope. I have to make myself stay practiced up. And I think that's a big factor of the success I had this year.
What do you think, from what you learned from the last 2 years, what focus do you think changed? And not only that too is, like I've gone to the NFRs before and there was something that there's a certain feel too. There's a feel like, okay, now next year I'm going to make sure that I do this. You kind of learn some stuff. And so then it kind of gives you some stuff that you want to make sure that like you focus on. So what was kind of the new focus after being there and going to it? And then what do you think changed this year?
I think the biggest thing was I was 150% confident in my horse. I know when I back him in the box, he is not going to make a mistake. And I took him out there the first year I took him. My good horse got hurt. I took him out there. He was a 4-year-old, and that's a lot for a 4-year-old. And I was kind of worried, and Chapter's like, dude, just go slow. You'll be fine. Just go slow. I was like, all right. Well, he didn't have the fire. He didn't have the, if a steer stepped left, he might get right behind him. If a steer stepped right, it might take him 3 strides to get over there. If we draw a runner, he may not fire right when I drop my hand. So I was like, man, I was kind of worried.
2 years ago, you took him as a 4-year-old?
Yes, sir.
And what is your horse's name?
His name's Dealer.
Dealer.
Yes, sir.
That's a good name for Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, going out there on a 4-year-old, that's double tough.
Mm-hmm.
You're almost trying to, because the thing about, the futurities, in my opinion, is, when you look at the riders that are riding those 4-year-olds and those futurities, those riders are so experienced. They're the confident ones helping that horse learn the routine. Yeah. And when the guy's there trying to win roping and you have a green horse, that makes it really hard to win when you're trying to help the horse as well as trying to rope. It's a lot of multitasking. So yeah. I can definitely see where that is a little bit of a juggle. And then you went there as your 5-year-old year.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Last year.
Yes, sir.
And it sounded like you did good, because when Schaffner was on the podcast about a month ago, the story we were talking about the guy that got a horse from Tyler, which was you, and then when you went out there and roped, had somebody come and offer you a lot of money for it. And you were trying to juggle, like, okay, do I take over 6 figures for this animal?
Yeah.
And have to try to find another one, or do I keep him and then try to win it back? And then 1 year later, bam.
Well, yeah. Well, that was after the U.S. finals when that guy called. And so going back to the 4-year-old year, it made it look real easy. So Cade Rice rode that horse when he was a 4-year-old, and he futurity'd on him and used him as a help horse. And you watch Cade ride one, and you're like, man, he looks freaking awesome, dude. And then I'll get on him, and I'm like, man, I make him look like crap, I can really pick out the flaws. And I just kept using him. I was like, man, I gotta have him. My good one got hurt. He got thrown to the wolves. I mean, I got him back. I called Cade. I was like, man, my horse is hurt. I got to have a horse for the U.S. finals. You think he's ready? He's like, yeah, he'll be good. I go get him. Very first jackpot I take him to, U.S. finals. And he was 4 years old. And I found some stuff that I was doing that when those guys show him, they do it a little bit different, like they'll hold him in there to score him. Well, when I scored one, I was riding a 19-year-old head horse. When I scored one, I just leave my hand kind of still. And then I just move my body forward and he'd go. Well, then that horse, I kind of figured that out. Well, then I got to where I was kind of pulling or like the gates would bang and I'd pull a little and then go. Well, that horse got to where he would turn a little in the box. And then he did it for his 4-year-old year. And I finally convinced Tyler to go to a jackpot with me. And I was like, hey, man, let's go rope. We enter this. I think it was a 12 Heartland. And he got his number lowered. He's like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready. Well, the only steer I missed all day was Tyler's. We back it. I go to back him in the box, and my horse keeps turning to the right. I can rope. I don't really get too nervous roping, but I seen Tyler over there, and I knew I'm just waiting on this smart comment. Like something. Like he's gonna say something stupid here in a minute. My horse just keeps turning to the right, and I'm like, man, I hope I don't miss. Just don't miss. What'd I do? I missed. And then right after that, I was like, man, I need to fix, and I was bummed. And Tyler's like, dude, look, the horse is 5. You got to just keep riding him. Just keep going and keep riding him, and it'll fix. It'll be fine. Like, just keep doing it. Repetition. I was like, all right. Well, he won't do it in a practice. He'll do it at a jackpot. You know why? I ride him different. He feels me at a jackpot, and I'll sit there and be real tense. And at practice, I'm just calm and collected, like whatever. And I just sit there and I'll just be scoring him. He'll be fine. Then I get to a jackpot about the third round. I'm like, all right, like I'm kind of getting tighter and tighter. That's when the horse would do it.
Yeah. One of the things too that I'd realized when I'd retired and then I started riding futurity horses and I was just training them. I had 3 pretty broke horses and they would tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't lie to you. And what I mean by that is if my hand did any little thing, they would tell me the truth. They would go wherever my left hand was going. And when I ride those old rodeo horses, they know the pattern. They know the drill. I can kind of get in their way. And another thing too, is I'd also ride them a lot on defense because it doesn't take very long before you start roping and they're wanting out of there or go at the gates and you got to pull. And well, I was finding out that, man, my left hand was not in a spot where I was helping the young horse learn, because I'd been a rodeo, rodeoed for so long and rode them older horses. And it's amazing what you learn in your riding when you start riding those horses that don't know bad habits. They just only know, like I say, when you have Cade Rice on there, the dude's an artist when it comes to his hands not moving until he wants to go. He is basically driving with his hands and feet right there where the spot is. So he's helping that horse along naturally because roping's so damn easy, and riding because he rides so correct. And so then all of a sudden you have somebody that is used to a certain horse and a certain feel, and that horse just does whatever, no matter how much you get in his way. It makes it very hard to go from that horse to a very sensitive, basically a truthful horse. It's only going to do what your hand does or your feet do.
Yeah.
And so a guy learns a lot about his riding, I really think, in those spots.
Yeah.
It's a very frustrating time, but also in the same time, it's amazing what you can learn.
I agree. And I agree. Like, I'd go rope with him over there some, and he'd help me. Cade would help me, like, hey, you need to do this, or, like I would ride a heel horse at the futurities, and he would head for me. And just watching him head, just watching the steers, dude, it's so easy to heel them. And I don't heel very good. But behind those guys, them steers do the exact same. It don't matter if you draw one that runs, lopes, it doesn't matter. The steer's going to do the same thing, and you can ride your horse the exact same way. Yeah. Well, you go watch him over there when he ropes at his house. It don't matter what steer you run. That horse looks the same. And it's so hard for me because on my old horse, when I'd leave the box, he wasn't near as fast as Dealer is. I'd leave the box and I'd just kind of take my hand to the left, and I wouldn't pick that horse up and set him up and do the 45, 90, 110. I wouldn't do that. I would just rope and kind of almost duck him, and I started doing that with Dealer, and I kind of created a couple small bad habits, and I had to go back. It took a year to fix it because of me, how I was riding him. And then it's a good feeling though after that U.S. finals when I don't even know who the number is, and they're calling you and they're like, hey, we want to buy your horse. And I'm like, well, you don't even know how old the horse is. You don't know what I want for him. You don't even know if he's for sale. I just want to buy him. Name a number. And I'm like, this is insane. I was like, man, I don't know what to do. Well, the only thing I could think to do was call Schaffner, and I called Schaffner and I called Jamie Markham, and I called both of them and I said, hey, what do I do? Because 2 days before that, I had a good U.S. finals. I roped very good. I didn't miss one cow the whole week. I roped really good. Well, except when it come to heeling. I missed some when I was heeling, but heading, I didn't miss any. And Jamie said, don't sell that horse, Jade. That horse is going to win you a lot of money. Don't sell that horse. And I was like, all right. And then a day or two later, I get this phone call, and I'm like, Jamie, what do I do? And she says, you got to price him very, very high because you're going to try 10 before you ever find one that's halfway close to what he is. And I'm like, dang, like, I don't know what to do, And Tyler said, man, if it was me, I would sell him, but I have 10 standing around that I can go start heading on. I don't. I have him. And I have 4 of his brothers, but I have him that's ready. But it was a pretty cool feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like you say, you end up turning that down, and I would say this year it sounded like you made that up on him.
Yes, sir. I've won a little over than the amount that it was.
Think about so what do you think you won on that horse this year?
About 160,000.
About 160,000. And what's pretty cool is you look at his dad, the AQHA senior heading world champion, and his lifetime earnings are about 90,000. And that's obviously just in the maturities, that he's won way more than that, I'm sure, jackpotting. But what I think is pretty cool is that Schaffner's horses are producing in the jackpot environment. That's pretty dang cool when, first of all, they're being seen, they're standing out amongst all these ropers, but then also winning. Yeah. Those gypsies they're winners.
Yes, sir.
And so that's pretty cool too that that his are doing that, and because he just started breeding not long ago. Like, that's probably one of his older horses that you have. Isn't it?
Yes, sir. I think it's one of the better ones, the older ones that are. I think he's got a couple of them that might be 7 or 8, but it's it's kind of cool because, man, he's one of the ones that he's only 6 years old, and he's already, I mean, I don't know how much I've won on him since I've owned him.
Yeah.
But it's
and
a
that's
good
what
amount.
everybody's, everybody I think has that. I remember Troy Applegate, he's a good friend of mine, and we were talking about, man, why don't you go find a 12-year-old good solid head horse? He's like, that's great. Go find me one.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah. And now I kind of see what he's talking about, and the fact that when you have one, they're not going to sell them because they're so hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge gamble when it's like someone offers you something, it's like, man, especially when they're 5 at the time, and they're offering you so much money for them, but then it's like, golly, then I got to go find one. And that's a process that ain't no fun. And then the next thing is, all right, if this horse is good enough that if I go to those good jackpots, that doesn't take long for me to win back. So
no. And that's what people kind of called me crazy. I don't tell a lot of people about the number because they'd look at you like you're an idiot and they kind of think that it's not real. But man, the way I look at it is the way how good I get along with that horse and how well he's helped my roping. I mean, that's like that's like a farrier selling his tools, like he's not going to sell his tools on something he can go make money at. And I have to do my job, but that horse just makes it so easy.
What, how much did you win out there the first couple of years that you went out there?
When he was a 4-year-old, I think I won 10,000 in the consolation. So I come home with $5,000.
Then last year
I won, I think we split 38,000 about 38,000 in the 10 bloomer. And then me and JD Holland, we won, I think, 10,000 in the consolation or 7,000 in the consolation, something like that. So I won about 45,000 on him, somewhere around there last year.
So a pretty big turnaround then from this
Yes,
year.
sir. Yes, sir.
What do you think are some of the things that you feel like that horse has taught you, and then some of the things that you were working on that changed from last year as well?
I think one of the biggest things I've worked on was something that you helped me with when I come to your clinic is getting my swing tighter instead of the swing that was real outside, getting it tighter and getting where I stay in my lane. My biggest problem I have is when I go to leave, I'll push my hand towards the steer and I'll get right behind him and I'll split the horns. My biggest thing I think that I really had to work on the most and really instill in my head was when I leave, put my hand straight down and stay in my lane and keep my swing tight and rope the steer. And that was the two biggest things I had to work on.
I remember that. That swing being out there and then running tight. It's amazing how just the little things that can be aimed in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we talk about is if you're out there shooting and your sights are off.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking right through the scope and you're on target, but when the scope's not lined up with the barrel and when the guy's left hand keeps driving too close to the steer, but then your swing's pointed to the right, they're crossed.
Yeah.
And that's where I think is so much fun too, is when a guy does have those eyes to where you're like, okay, that's where, because you can't sometimes see it yourself, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It takes another set of eyes to be able to see that. And the one thing I'll say is that when you've come to the clinic, you had a very teachable mindset. When you came there, you wrote down notes. Like you were telling me, like, I remember you come back and say, okay, now step 1 was this. Step 1, you were writing down the 5 steps. When we do the dummy drills, you were writing them down. I was like, oh, this is a guy that's like truly trying to get better. Like you could see it. And then when you came this fall, was about a month out, wasn't it?
I came on October 31st.
Mm-hmm. And then we set up the box basically the same, try to have the steers basically the same. They might even be a little strong, which is good. I think sometimes practicing a little bit stronger is better because then when you get there, it almost feels easier. You know, and I felt that was there. And just the amount of work that you put in. I mean, you took it seriously from when and where you started your swing to being able to learn how to get ahead of your horse, where the proper lane was and the width. And then I think too, after that is so hard is the stick and cross.
Mm-hmm.
When you're basically telling your horse to go 2 different directions.
Yep.
And then that lets them drop that shoulder and it puts them in charge of handling the steer and not you. And that was one of my biggest ones. It was so hard to overcompensate was the stick and cross. I was taught that. And then later, I think Jackie was one of the ones that helped me with it. And then you start watching Driggers, how much better his left-handed feet are. Now you're watching the fraternities where they're getting so good at it. And that was probably one of the things that I would say got in my way was my left hand, not realizing it. Having so many horses drop and you're always on defense. Well, if you're on defense, you're not the one that's basically going to be handling steer. And then I think also too is just once you dally, for me, is my wife tells me I'm too serious and I'm too what do they call it? To where you're too literal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, yes, but like, don't just tell me to go up the pin. Because if you look up the pin, that's a big area. That's a lot. Trust me, that's a lot for me to screw up.
Yeah.
And so when I would start watching the good runs, I would dissect where the left-hand arena, where everything is on the left-hand side of the arena. So because once you get the start and get around the horns and dally, job's half done.
Mm-hmm. You got a lot left.
Now we got to know too, is because what the left-handed feet is going to do is it's also going to handle the steer. So we got to know where the points are on the left-hand side of the arena so you're able to get the steer right there where you want. So in that way, it comes right up underneath the heeler. And then also developing and training the left hand and feet to where then after the heeler ropes, okay, now where does the feet and hands need to go to make that finish? And, there's so much to catching because that is the most important part because if you don't catch, you don't win shit.
Yeah.
So that has to be there. But then after that, okay, now how do we develop the left hand and feet to where they're working for us?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to give us our start. That's going to give us our spot where we're able to catch from. That's going to be able to, once we pull our slack, hit the right angles across that arena to the left-hand side where it's going to put that steer right there where it's easy to heel. And then also what's going to make it to where you don't lose a second facing on each run because that's where I see so much of the clinics is you see guys that are losing maybe a full second on their facing. Well, when you go to the World Series finals in Vegas, times that by 4.
You don't have 4 seconds.
Now we look and see what won it and then subtract 4 seconds from that. That's what you're losing on your face. That's a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then see how much 4 seconds drops into money won, and so those little things, and it's important that a guy understands you got to catch that has to be there. Then, okay, now how are we going to develop the left-handed feet? Because that's a big part of it. They work together.
Yeah.
Not just one. And I think a lot of the guys that have heck is when it's just focused on catching, they got no idea what their hands and feet are doing. And like I said, I've been there. I understand it. And then, your mentality, I think, was one of the things that drove you, I think, to stay consistent, your discipline, and then having that winning outlook. And when you got there, it was just fun to see where it all paid off.
Yeah. And it was cool because I know I think, would we work out what was it, that Saturday we worked out? Or the Friday we worked out? And
out there in Vegas.
Yeah. And I knew, man, I had a different mindset going out there. I've never mentally been prepared as I was this year. I mean, dude, I did not think in my mind, I hope I catch this steer. I say that one steer. I was pretty nervous on my third high. I was my third steer of the 10. That's the only steer I got nervous on. Dude, it was taking forever. And I think Farron, it might have been Farron or Jet, I don't remember, but they just kept saying, man, we've only had 10 people catch and we're taking 8. The cutoff is 37. And I'm like, holy smokes. Literally, we can go break a barrier and rope a leg and still be like third in our consolation.
Isn't it amazing the mental gymnastics the guy can go through?
Yeah, and I'm like, or third in our rotation. I was like, man, wow. And then I'm like, okay, we drew a steer that had some big flat horns. And I'm like, I can't wave it off that. Stay wide, try to be too wide, and my man's going to heal him. And so I did. I just did my same routine. I backed in there, don't break out, stayed wide. I tried to get too wide, roped him. My man takes 2 swings over his back and heals him. And I was like, all right, that's a cool feeling.
And that's practice.
Yeah.
Well, that's the stuff we talk about, the clinics, we talk about the lessons, we talk about it so much in team roping is if you'll do your job, you'll be amazed at how much stuff that doesn't matter you take out of the equation. But it's also important to know what your job is. And that's what I think when I've watched so many people at the clinics is when someone says get in position, well, I'll ask people where's position, and they're like, well, over there.
But where?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to know where. Like I like breaking down where all the moving parts are from the time to start to where your left hand, your right hand back, all those things how the first swing sets up. Know how, like to me, once you've learned the steps and we break it down where all the moving parts are at, then after that, once, like say you did a good job, you wrote them down. And then once you know where they're at, that's practice. Now we need reps.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need to turn that into a habit. So then that way, when it started happening, when you started hitting the right angle, especially after you're pulling your slack and where you're going after you dallied, that's what I started seeing now. Now you're in front of the steer. Because when you were sticking and crossing, then that's when you're getting trapped.
Yep.
When you started making that move, once you pulled your slack and dallied and got to the right angle to the left, then all of a sudden now, as you were pulling the steer and slowing down the corner, you were in front of the steer and handling them. And that's when I started seeing a real big difference. And it was helping your face.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you had that down, like I say, now you got a recipe. Now can you just keep doing it, because that's the job. The job is to get a good start, get up their position, be ready to rope, and then know where you're going on the left-hand side after that to handle the steer. And if you'll do that, the time doesn't matter half the time.
No, just go do it.
Because half the time, that's what'll take care of the time.
You know what's crazy is
less things to worry about, in my opinion.
Yeah. I didn't ever try to go B7.
Mm-hmm.
I never did.
Just made your run and it worked.
I looked the other day. I think I'd have to go back for sure, but I think it was 4. I run 37 steers out there in between Wickenburg and Vegas. I went to Wickenburg for one day. I missed 2 in Wickenburg. I missed my dally one time in the 13, and I missed 1 steer. I waved it off 1 in the 10 bloomer, or the 11 bloomer. I'm sorry. And other than that, I was 7 on almost every steer. I think there was 4 steers that I wasn't 7 on, and I never tried to be 7. I don't reach. I run to the hip. I just got to start.
Just do your job.
Got to start. And I was very, very proud because I went out there with the goal of not breaking a barrier. Don't break a barrier and catch my steers. I did not break one barrier, and I caught almost all my steers. And that was just, it sounds so easy, but you get out there, dude, it's hard to do.
Well, I think it gets easier, like I say, if you know where the moving parts are.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know where all the moving parts, you know where each step is, then you can try to continue to keep it in order and keep working on that. And then you have something to trust. You have something to lean on. But if there's so many holes in that, you're not sure where they're at, then that's where I think a guy will. Because to me, like, overthinking is like basically when the chain falls off your bike, you're pedaling, but you're not going nowhere. You're just pedaling your ass off and you're not going nowhere. And you're just waiting for something to get a hold of something, in my opinion, that's if you know what you're going to do, that's when I think you get the chain back on the bike, and I think that's where it's important is when you do know where that stuff is, then you just keep doing it. Now you got something to trust, but that's, if it's off and you're trying to figure it out on your own, it takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a really long time.
Yeah, and that's where, and like it helped a lot too because it didn't matter. Like you had told me, hey, find someone to video at the ropings. Find someone to video at practice. Find someone to just video you doing, roping the dummy or this and that. Well, every single night I'd go rope the dummy, I would video it. And if I seen something that looked pretty good, I wouldn't send it. But if I didn't, if I seen something where I was like, hey, I wonder if this is okay, I would send you the video and I would send Schaffner the video. And I mean, dude, that's a lot of videos on my phone. And I would do it every single day at a jackpot. Hey, Charlie, how's this run look? Hey, Schaffner, how's this run look? Hey, that looked okay on this, but dude, you got to get in front of that steer. Or you're moving your body too much when you face, or your left hand did this, or your first swing was too early. And dude, I mean, I'd have to sit there. My mind is all over the place. So I have to sit there, and when I practice, if I had the goal of left hand forward, right hand back, I'd have to do that 10 steers in a row. All right, nod my head, left hand forward, right hand back, ride my horse, pick my rope up. Then I might not catch a steer till the very end of the arena. Or I may not even be able to turn the steer because it took so long to catch him. But that was what I was working on that day, and that's what I would do. And that's where I had to stick it, where I had to stick to my mental deal where I'm like, hey, I have to figure this out or I'm not going to win. If I cannot get my first swing over him, I'm not going to go B7. I can't B7 because it takes too long to get my rope over there. And that's
how much easier it is to ride. If the timing hits just right and the swing hits just right, how much easier it is because you're in rhythm with your horse.
Mm-hmm.
Then that way when you're swinging forward and your horse is going forward, everything's in time. And that's what we call getting ahead of them. So in that way, when you get up there and get rated off, everything's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very important part of setting that run up is learning all that stuff. All those are the techniques, and that's the stuff that once you put the reps in and it starts, then all of a sudden once a feel, then you got it. And it's so much easier. It does. It's a game changer. I've seen so many, and I've been there for a long time too, was, when I was first learning, I mean, I never cocked my rope until I went to my first NFR. I always wondered why they did that. And then I go to the NFR and I remember Tyler Magnus going, how come you don't cock your rope? And I'm like, what is that? Why did they do that? What are you complaining about on that last run? Well, I'm just not ready to rope. Right. That's why they cock the rope. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Wow.
Well, now I'm learning how to cock my rope, and I'm going to my first NFR, and I've never done it before.
Yeah.
You know, and on all those things where there's such a feel. And like I say, a lot of that stuff, luckily I had some of the guys at least kind of help me. But, you know, that kind of give your hats off to some of the guys that figured it out on their own. That shit real hard.
I think that's a big thing too, man. You got to have people who are in your corner.
Yeah.
You know, like I've got a lot of guys I can call that are in my corner, and you find out really who your real buds are whenever you're trying to figure stuff out. And
well, yeah, having Schaffner there, and then you talked about having Cade Rice there, and you know those are some of the two best horsemen in the world. You know, one raised the horse, one helped train him. You said right?
Yes, sir. Cade rode him. Cade rode him a while. I don't remember exactly. I think about 5 or 6 months he had him.
Yeah,
when he was 4, he took him right and had him that whole year. So
yeah.
But yeah, it was, man, and having them guys like that where you can call if you have a question. You know, like I knew if I had a question, I could call him, and I could call Tyler at it. He's been like that since I met him. If I needed it, if I was at a jackpot and I'm missing, I'm like, dude, what am I doing? He can tell me without even seeing a video, hey, you're doing this, you know. And he's been like that. We've known each other for probably 7 or 8 years now, and he's been like that since we first started roping together. So it's good to have guys who you can call that rope better than you, who you kind of look up to and want to be as good as they are. It's good to have those guys.
Yeah, man, and like I say, I'm so happy for him. You know, we talked about it when he was here on the podcast. He's done a lot of the hard work. He's a hell of a cowboy. He rides really good. He roped good. He put in a lot of effort, and now to see his hard work paying off with what Pockets is doing, you know, winning the AQHA. Now you're seeing some of his babies right now starting to do good, especially the jackpots. He's got some in training now with Tate, so you're going to start seeing his babies now start to compete and do well, I think, going forward. And like I say, I think that's really important that you're seeing his babies doing good at the jackpots. And you're seeing them really stand out, especially in an early age, at the biggest jackpots in the world. Because like you say, when you look at what you won in Vegas and look and see how many guys in the NFR, I mean, now it's getting to where the jackpots are right there with the NFR.
It's insane payout. Dude, that's life-changing money, you know?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What are some of the things now after the roping? You know, what's everyone talking about? You know, you getting any more phone calls?
Oh, dude,
you know, as you feel like now all of a sudden your game's changed, or now all of a sudden you're kind of hearing some different stuff.
That's what I told Katie on the way back. Poor Katie. And my buddy Casey went with me too. And dude, I bet I was on the phone 17 of the 19 hours driving back, phone blowing up. And people just make it, they're like, oh man, you know, how do you do it? What'd you do? How do we get to that level? How do we go win? Man, what y'all didn't see is the last 8 years of me trying to get here. Or you didn't see the last year where I set my alarm at 2:00 in the morning so I can get up and go to the gym. Or, you know, I'm outside in the barn light roping the dummy after a jackpot because I missed one, you know, like, or I'd get a phone call, man, you know, all you did was just went and caught him. Yeah, dude, but that's hard, you know, or like, you know, how did you get your horse to do that?
That's the goal. Get out and go catch him.
And, you know, I will say that it was real easy to get on that horse after Cade got on him and rode him. So a guy named, I need to tell the backstory on how he got like that. There's a guy named Brady Beery. He started that horse, put 90 days on him. And man, if you know me any well at all, I do not like a horse that even moves his head wrong. Like, there's too many of them out there that buck, and I don't want to start one. I don't know how to start one very good. I will not ever claim to know any of that. Like, that's not me. So I had Brady start him. Colton Burnett rode him, and Colton Burnett, Dr. Deerland's on him, and he's like, man, this horse is going to be pretty good. And he's like, he's always been easy to run. You know, he's run to the cow. He's strong. And then I got him back, and I rode him a little bit, you know, like I didn't do much with him. And then I sent him to Cade, and Cade rode him for 5 or 6 months. And then I get him back, and he's just patterned where I can go rope on him. And then, you know, you get all these people that are like, oh man, it must be nice to have a good horse like that, or it must be nice to be able to go rope like that. Well,
sure is.
Dude, yeah, put in the work. You can see how nice it is, you know, like a lot of people, I've had a lot of phone calls where people are like, man, that horse is amazing, you know, like you're roping. And, you know, a lot of things that it make you feel pretty good because, like you said, the mindset. I had a different mindset this year. And when I went to your clinic last year at Dillon's, I was like, man, I got to learn this stuff. I've got to figure this heading out. Catching was never really hard. I could normally go catch them, but I'd go be 8 or 9. Like I didn't know how a good horse was supposed to. Let me rephrase that. I had good horses. I didn't know how a great horse was supposed to handle a cow. I had the old campaigners that run out there, and I could drop my hand.
Turn them.
They'd just turn the steer.
Yep.
And then I could get really good at screwing up one on facing because I'd just go to pulling, and I'd turn my whole body. Well, then you get the people who are like, oh, man, that must be nice to be able to ride them or, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, just try it, try to put in the work on it and try to see what happens. And then, man, you have the opposite. You have people who are like, man, you really inspired me. Like we see your stuff on Facebook, or we see a video you posted, or we seen you at a jackpot, or, you really inspired me. You really pushed me. We want to be better. How can we be better? How can you help us do this? Or the only thing I can say is just find someone who you look up to and find someone go to one of your clinics. I think you watched me rope at your clinic before that. My heading wasn't very good. I could catch them, but it wasn't very good. But I put in the work after all the stuff we learned, and I took 1.5 years to do it. And I made it, where I could not worry about catching them. And that is kind of a cool feeling where you put in the work like that and you see all these people call you and text you. And like the morning afterwards, my phone had I had 50 missed calls and 100 text messages, and it's a cool feeling. Mm-hmm. And people who you don't even know walking up to you and say, man, you've put in the work, we've been watching you. And you don't even, I don't even know who these people are, man. We've seen your hard work. We've seen the time you've put into it. Great job, excellent job. That's a cool feeling.
Well, I think I thought too, when you went to the clinic up there in Wichita Falls, was you started learning how to kind of set it up. And what I always tell is everyone, because I got a lot of young kids who come to my clinics, and I have, some of them will drive, they'll just kind of follow my tour around. And then I tell them, so look, take this and go work on it for a month. You've got plenty of stuff right here where I've got you right here on these steps. You've got plenty of work to go do. Get this down. And then that way, when we get to the next one, that way now we can work on this.
Yeah.
I think it's good to where I've got to break down all the moving parts, but for some people, it's this is what you stick with here. Then we can work on there. But I'll have, with 12 guys, most of my clinics, I'll have somebody that's already past that. Okay, now how do we get to, step 6 and 7? And so we make it there, but then I just give them homework. This is what your homework is. Get this down. Then we'll be able to break down the first swing. Then we'll be able to make sure we're ready to rope when we get there. Then we'll be able to make sure we can face after we can handle the steer. But if you try to do all these things at once, that's when it gets really hard. And that's what I thought you did a good job the first time, is you got the basic steps down. Then that way, when you came here this fall, it was all right, now we can tighten this up. Now we can, because you got to have the main stuff down. Your horse was scoring so much better.
Oh, yeah.
He was leaving off your hand better. You were heading to a spot, you were starting there. You're getting that left hand developed to get your start and head to your spots. Okay, now let's break down when and where to bring that first swing up. All those little things. There's always little things, but I think when you try to do it all at once, that's when it's real frustrating. But if we can, let's do this, let's get that. Okay, now that's down. Okay, now we can go to here. Now we can go to there. Because if you're just getting started, we need to learn how to ride.
Yeah.
Then we need to learn how to catch a dummy. Then we got to add bolts. We got to do it real slow. You got to stay safe. Then now we got to get ready for your first jackpot. Then after that, because there's going to be butterflies. Once you have it to where we can turn the steer and you can dial and stay safe. All right, if we can do that 4 times in a row, okay, now let's go find your first jackpot. We're not going to get outrun. Well, there's steps to just keep going. You think of a guy from beginner all the way to when you're watching those guys in the NFR, there's a lot of steps in that stuff. And so many of them get skipped because they're trying to be fast. And when you find out that there's steps right there to get, when you put it in, especially in that 12, that set up that are specifically for that roping, and it's successful if you go get those steps down and then I thought it was really fun to watch where you just nailed it. It was
yeah.
Really cool.
And dude, it's it kind of all clicked. When you were telling me when I rope and as I'm pulling my slack, move my horse up and out, that didn't ever make sense because your whole life you're taught cross your hands. Mm-hmm. And then, dude, when I clicked, my horse knew. And when he realized hey, you've got it, dude. Every steer, and it's a cool feeling. You look at the pictures, and every steer, the horse looks the exact same. And I'm like, man, that's a cool feeling.
It's a cool feeling too when your horse does what you ask and you learn how to ride the correct way. When you learn how to ride the correct way and your horse does what you ask, that's when you start making runs. But you can a lot of times ride in the correct way, but if that horse is fighting you in any way, then it doesn't work. And then also if you're fighting that horse to do the right thing, then you're in his way.
Yes.
So it's fun when you're able to learn technique correct, especially with your left-handed feet to get the right angle, and then have a horse that's willing and trying to be on your team. That's what I've seen with Pockets and the horse you're riding is they do whatever you ask. They're on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's really cool, I think, is when a guy learns how to ride them, then you can learn how to maintain them. And then that way, when you have a good one, you're able to let that horse do what it knows how to do, and you're able to help that horse be in the right place at the right time. Because in my opinion, when I was looking for horses, willing was number one. I had to have something that was willing. I had to have something that I know he's on my team and he's not going to fight me.
Yeah.
Because if he does, he's not going to be in my corner when I need to win. And everything I've seen and Tyler does such a good job of starting them, but it's just really cool now too to see that those horses starting to produce in that spot. And so what do you have for horses underneath of that?
I got a lot, dude. So I'm really excited about that.
So what do you remember what dealer's bred like?
Yeah, he's out of a Jesse's Gal 37 mare by Tyler's. He don't have the stud anymore, but he has a Rocky Top Pep. And so I have a 3-year-old full brother to dealer. And I think he's going to be the deal. Tate's had him for 90 days. Tate rode him for 90 days. I got him back and he's been off for 60 days and Tate's taking him back in January. And, then I have another one that's a 2-year-old. That's a full brother as well. He's got about 120 rides on him, 150 rides somewhere around there. So I'll ride him until he's 3, then do the same deal. And then I have a yearling that's out of the same mare, but he's by a Playgun stud. And then I have a weanling that he's out of the same mare and he's by Pocket. And then I have the mare as well. So I just kind of fell in love with that horse and he taught me a lot and he's been easy since day one. And so I'm like, Tyler, I need more of them. And so I bought that horse the Rooster is his name, the 3-year-old. I bought him and I was like, man, I kind of got to have some more. And then I started buying all the babies and it's been cool having the whole bloodline. I'm kind of excited to see how it'll work out.
Yeah. Especially when you know you've got a winning combination. I sold Cotton out there. So Cotton, he's related to Pockets and he's out of a Starlight Gypsy and they're gamers. And once I got him back, got him sound and, he's done good. And then I ended up selling him after Vegas. He's too good to be sitting over here going to a few jackpots a year. And so he's going on to brighter lights. And so my horse Gypsy, he aged out this year. So I'm going to start putting some time in on him and help him grow up and go to some jackpots that I was going to take Cotton to. I'll start letting him season up and go to some of those. And I've been looking for a futurity horse. And so I went and tried one of Schaffner's today. And and Tate has I think almost a 3/4 sister to him. And so I rode, and she's same age. And so I rode her and I think she's had 90 days put on him and he's really pumped about her. And so, I'm looking at a 3-year-old right now going forward. That's going to be out of Pockets. And he's going to be cool, I think too. He's got the color so yeah, I loved when I got on him. They're just easy.
They're so laid back.
He does such a good job of he uses them, but he also doesn't just ride them outside. He puts miles on them, which is great, but he also trains them. So they're broke, but they have a job. So like when I dropped my reins, he stopped.
Yep.
He knew that like, this is going to be a long day and I'm going to have to save my, and so I love that where I'm not fighting. I don't have to worry about when I pull my rope up, him shying away. Like he had the right stuff done. So he had the right attitude right off the bat. And so that's what I've noticed about riding, both of them. There's just so much good groundwork that to me, when that's set in a good spot and they're trained to be rope horses, the buttons that he puts on them are going to go towards team roping. And so, but I think for a lot of people too, that they're looking for them next horses, I think that's where a lot of this stuff is going towards is finding the bloodline that you like and the person that can start it right. But, so Tyler, he's got a website. So anybody looking, for some of these horses, or if you like that breeding or you like Jake's horse, is it's TS Rope Horse 1, and it's the number 1 at gmail.com. So TS for Tyler Schaffner, Rope Horses, and then the number 1 at gmail.com. So email them and see if you're in the looking, if you like seeing some of them horses and you're in the market for starting young and basically wanting to, this is a timely process.
Oh, yeah.
It's an investment, but by the time a guy looks at it and tries to find something you can go win on, as opposed to, okay, this is investment for the future that I'm going to have that are starting to be proven winners, and, give him an email out there. But I think I think he's onto something, and I'm happy for him because he's put the work in for it. So
it was funny because when he branded Dealer, his brands were all jacked up. And so he was telling Tate the other day, I talked to Tate on my way back, and Tate was like, dude, you kicked ass out there. Great job. And I was like, man, thank you. And then Tyler talked to Tate, and Tyler was like, yeah, I branded that horse, not even think about it. Like I branded him bad because I figured Jake would jack him up so bad they wouldn't know where he came from. I was like, man, you screwed up there.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So I always like asking when someone, basically hits the jackpot when you win that much money, what are you going to do with the money?
Man, I'm going to buy one more horse. And I'll tell you what, I'll give you a piece of advice. After you win, don't call people and be like, hey, you got any horses for sale? You'll see them on Facebook for like 25,000 and they'll be like, yeah, I'll take 50 for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
that's a thing.
No, I'm going to invest most of it, and then I'm going to buy another horse that I can just go take right now until Rooster's ready.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Kind of let a little bit of the heat be taken off.
Yes,
a good one to where you can still go rope, but then not have them take all the heat. That's good.
Yes, sir. I had to go spend a little. It's funny. I saw Ryan at the he was up there. Ryan Motes was talking to who was he talking to? I don't remember where we were up there watching the short go, and he's talking to Carrie Kelly, and Carrie was like, man, you need to go see Brian's wife. She's got a bunch of jewelry over there. I was like, oh, trust me, Katie already found it. I had to go buy Katie some diamond earrings for all the hard work she put into. And Ryan was like, man, you cheap ass, all you bought was earrings.
That's funny. What is the name of that?
7X jewelry.
7X jewelry. Yep. That's right.
7X jewelry.
By the time not my wife doesn't listen to podcasts anyway, so I'm good to go. But I've got our anniversary on order.
Yeah,
and our anniversary is right before Christmas.
Dude, they have some cool stuff.
I've got to save up. Her birthday is the 23rd. Our anniversary is the 24th, and then Christmas is the 25th.
Yeah, you come in bad time right there.
Especially at the end of the year, because this is when clinic season goes dry.
Yeah.
This is like hay season's about March.
Yeah,
and then this is when everything quits, and so. But yeah, we ordered some stuff out there. They got some sweet stuff.
That's some cool stuff. Real cool stuff.
Highly recommend any of the guys trying to get out of the doghouse or anything like that, or just trying to impress your girl, man.
Yeah,
take a look at that stuff. They do some good work.
I texted John Ryan too right before I left, and I was like, hey, he had a trailer that he was going to sell, and I was like, man, I like that trailer, you want to sell it? And he's like, yeah, I'll sell it. And I was like, all right, I'll make you a deal. I hit a lick afterwards, after I get back, I want to buy that trailer. And then he texted me the day after I won. I texted him, I said, hey, I think I want to buy that trailer. And he texted me the next day. He said, I changed the price. It's $100,000.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how that works. But man, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm happy for your win. That was cool to see. Well deserved. You put the work in, and it's fun to watch that. I love it when I start seeing the click. What I mean by that is when things start clicking, and watch guys getting excited about roping, because it's a frustrating sport.
It is.
A lot like golf. It can be frustrating. And so to be able to shine light on the things to practice, to be able to put that work in and see it pay off, man, it's fun for me to watch, and I'm excited. I'm happy for you. So,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Great job. And this podcast will be coming out right before Christmas. So everyone listening to this, man, guys, have a Merry Christmas. And, we hope all the holidays are great for everybody, and everyone stays safe in their travels. And Jake, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, Charlie. Hey, make sure Tyler knows that Dealer won more than Pocket.
He'll be listening to this. You just told him already yourself.
Yeah. All right. Thanks
Congrats,
for having
man.
me, man. I appreciate it.
You bet, buddy.